It's really early in the morning right now, and I'm reading the complete works of Plato, and I'm going through the Sophist, and the visitor and Theaetetus, I think that's how you say his name, are having this great conversation that it's like epic, of course, written by Plato, but they're trying to, of course, they're trying to uh, discover the essence of the, you know, of the sophist. How do you, what makes the sophist different from, say, the statesman or the philosopher? And I mean, there was a specific question that was brought up by Socrates, but at any rate, I just wanted to read this because I suddenly, on reading it again, for the first time in a long time, or well, long for me, about 6 years. Um, I just wanted to read it because it was an assignment, and I was just reading through, and no, I liked it, but not like now. Now I'm like taking pleasure in it, and he says, the visitor says that the sophist must fall under one of the two types that have been mentioned, um, because they had earlier divided copy making into two types: likeness making and appearance making. They say that at 264c, if you want to read that. And then around 265, he says, and we agreed before that the sophist does fall under one of the two types we just mentioned. Yes. Then let's try to take the kind we've posited and cut it in two. Let's go ahead and always follow the right-hand part of what we've cut, and hold onto things that the sophist is associated with until we strip away everything that he has in common with other things. Then, when we've left his own peculiar nature, let's display it, especially to ourselves, but also to people to whom this sort of procedure is naturally congenial. So they're going through this is their method of the dialectic method of question and answer philosophy, and so they've made these kinds, and then they're cutting them. They're going to cut them one way, and then they cut them the other way. And he says, all right, until they get to the core of what the essence of what they want to talk about. Didn't we begin? So the visitor says, didn't we begin by dividing expertise into productive and acquisitive? Yes. And under the acquisitive part, the sophist appeared in hunting, combat, wholesaling, and types of that sort? Of course. But now, since he's included among experts in imitation, first we obviously have to divide productive expertise in two. We say imitation is a sort of production, but of copies and not of the things themselves. Is that right? Absolutely. First of all, production has two parts. What are they? Divine and human. I don't understand yet. If you remember how we started, we said production was any capacity that causes things to come to be that previously were not. I remember, says Theaetetus. Visitor says, now this is the part that I'm really resonating with here, so bear with me. He says, take animals and everything mortal, including plants and everything on the earth that grows from seeds and roots, and also all lifeless bodies made up inside the earth, whether fusible or not. Are we going to say anything besides the craftsmanship of a god makes them come to be after previously not being? Or shall we rely on the saying and the widespread belief that ... question mark. And Theaetetus says, that what? Well, the visitor says, are we going to say that nature produces them by some spontaneous cause that generates them without any thought, or by a cause that works by reason and divine knowledge derived from a god? And Theaetetus says, I often shift back and forth on that. I often shift back and forth on that from one view to the other, maybe because of my age. When I'm focusing on you now, and supposing that you think they come to be by the agency of a god, that's what I think too. Visitor says, fine, Theaetetus. If we thought you were the kind of person who might believe something different in the future, we'd try to use some cogent, persuasive argument to make you agree. But but since I know but since I know what your nature is, and I know, too, that even without arguments from us it will tend in the direction that it's pulled toward now, I'll let the issue go. It would take too much time. I'll assume divine expertise produces the things that come about by so-called nature, and that human expertise produces the things that humans compound those things into. According to this account, there are two kinds of production, human and divine. Theaetetus says, right. Visitor, since there are two of them, cut each of them in two again. How? It is as if you'd already cut production all the way along its width, and now you'll cut it along its length. All right. That way, there are four parts of it all together, two human ones related to us, and two divine ones related to the gods. Yes. Then, if we take the division we made the first way, one part of each of those parts is the production of originals. Just about the best thing to call the two parts that are left might be copy making. That way, production is divided in two again. And then he says, tell me again how each of them is divided. Anyway, let's say what, I mean, just this passage, which is 265 C and D, take animals and everything mortal, including plants and everything on the earth that grows from seeds and roots, and also all lifeless bodies made up inside the earth, whether fusible or not. Are we going to say that anything besides the craftsmanship of a god makes them come to be after previously not being? Or shall we rely on the saying and the widespread belief that, and Theaetetus, then what? Or that what? Are we going to say that nature produces them by some spontaneous cause that generates them without any thought? Or by a cause that works by reason and divine knowledge derived from a god? Theaetetus says, I often shift back and forth on that from one view to the other, maybe because of my age. When I'm focusing on you now and supposing that you think they come to be by the agency of a god, that's what I think too. It's just, it makes you wonder about progress in knowledge, and I mean, first of all, I feel related to well, to Plato, but to the Athenians, basically to the Greeks who were living at that time. They have the same exact uh, wavering between these issues, taking up other people's opinions, or what what other people hold as beliefs. Um, yeah, or how he says that or shall we rely on the saying and the widespread belief that, well, it's funny that he says that there's a widespread belief in Greece that you know basically of atheism, and I thought that was hilarious, and that we here on YouTube are doing this in a very different fashion. uh, I mean, I mean, the same basically, but much less, not at all like chopping, in this perfect way that, or this question and answer style, in this very precise forming of kinds and then splitting them in two and then splitting them another way. I just thought that was funny. That they are, you wonder like, how far are we getting when, some, millennia ago they were asking the same questions and confused and all this, but it also reminded me, if anyone, just to end this video, he says when they make the when he's making this distinction, he says it's as if you'd cut production, because this is the category. Production is a category all the way along its width, and now you cut along its length. All right. That way, there are four parts of it altogether, two human ones related to us and two divine ones related to gods. That sounds just like, I mean, it makes me think again of what Heidegger is talking about. I mean, in his later life, he's talking about the fourfold and, earth and sky, gods and mortals. And I can't help but think that is some way really intricately bound up with what he's talking about. I think it's talking about the way of doing phenomenology, personally.